My name is Madison Blake. I'm 35 years old, and nothing could have prepared me for the most humiliating moment of my life, being stopped by my own parents at the entrance to my sister's wedding. That day, I wore a navy blue gown I had saved up for $500, hoping to feel like part of the family again. The wedding was held at the Belmont Grand Hotel, a luxurious venue in the heart of Savannah, Georgia. I approached the grand entrance with a sliver of hope, praying maybe today would be different. But then came the sharp voice of the security guard. "I'm sorry, ma'am, you're not on the guest list." I thought it was a mistake, until my father, Douglas, stepped forward with a blank expression. "We talked about this, Madison. Today is Sierra's day." Beside him stood my mother, Evelyn, arms crossed, eyes cold, and behind them, at the top of the staircase, was Sierra, my sister, glowing in white, her smirk razor-sharp as she looked straight at me, amused. Camera phones lit up. I could hear whispers. "Is that the bride's sister?" Then a chuckle from some guy nearby. I felt completely exposed. But I didn't beg. I didn't plead. I simply pressed my lips together, turned on my heels, and walked away, my heels clicking against the marble like tiny hammers on my pride. Behind me, I could hear Sierra's soft laughter and the crowd's murmurs. I've never felt so small, so invisible. I guess I should have seen it coming that moment they blocked me outside the hotel on Sierra's wedding day. But the truth is, the signs were always there. I was just the only one still pretending not to notice. I grew up in Savannah, Georgia, in a family where every spotlight naturally landed on my sister Sierra. She was always the special one, beautiful, outgoing, never told no. My parents, Douglas and Evelyn, treated her like the crown jewel of the Blake family. And me? I was the reliable one, the easy daughter, or more accurately, the background prop in Sierra's highlight reel. I work in digital marketing, not flashy, but steady. I used my salary to help keep my parents' struggling real estate business afloat, thinking maybe they'd finally see my worth, but they never did. Every family dinner, every so-called business meeting, I'd be talked over, dismissed, or ignored altogether. At Dad's 60th birthday party, I suggested hiring a local florist for the wedding to save money. Sierra rolled her eyes and shot back. "This isn't some backyard potluck, Madison." And Mom, like always, backed her up. "Don't ruin Sierra's vision." I smiled through it, swallowing the lump in my throat like I'd learned to do. I really believed that if I worked hard enough, was kind enough, patient enough, they'd finally see that I deserved a place at the table. But I was wrong. The truth? I'd never truly belonged. I remember the first time someone actually said out loud what I should have known all along. "They don't value you, Madison." It was Jordan, my best friend, one quiet morning at our usual coffee shop. I laughed it off, pretending it was nothing. "It's just a wedding, Jordan. Everything will be fine." But deep down, I knew he was right. The signs became impossible to ignore. When the wedding invitations were sent out, I opened the envelope with a foolish kind of hope. The card was gold-trimmed, luxurious, screaming the extravagance Sierra was aiming for. But my name stood alone. No +1, no warm note. I told myself it was probably a minor oversight. I RSVP'd anyway, like everything was fine. A few days later, I called my mom, hoping to be included somehow, even if just to help. "Do you need me to bring anything, Mom?" I asked gently. She let out a sigh. "Just show up, Madison." Then hung up. No gratitude, no excitement. Just a cold reminder that I wasn't part of the plan. Weeks later, Sierra called, her voice syrupy sweet. "Madison, could you help us out a bit more with the wedding budget? Maybe like $10,000? My heart sank. I had already contributed over $25,000 to the family account over the years. No one ever acknowledged it. And now they were asking for more? For the first time in my life, I said, "Number?" Sierra didn't even hesitate. "Then don't expect a warm welcome." I should have known then. That was the warning bell ringing loud and clear. That morning, I stood in front of my mirror, smoothing out my navy gown, the one I believed would somehow earn me a seat at the table. I'd spent weeks preparing, not just my appearance, but my heart. Despite the knot in my chest, I still clung to hope. I told myself, maybe today is the day everything changes. The Belmont Grand Hotel gleamed like a crystal castle under the Savannah sun. I walked toward the entrance with a steady stride, my heart pounding. A security guard stood at the doors, tablet in hand. "I'm Madison Blake, the bride's sister," I said with a polite smile, still believing. He scanned the list. "I'm sorry, ma'am. You're not on the guest list." I froze. Then my father, Douglas, stepped forward. His face was stone. "Today is Sierra's day. You shouldn't be here." My mother, Evelyn, stood beside him, arms crossed, expression colder than marble. I looked past them, and there she was, Sierra, at the top of the grand staircase in her glowing white gown, watching me like a queen surveying the peasant she cast out. She didn't say a word. She just smirked. A woman nearby whispered, "Is that the sister?" A man chuckled quietly. Then came the glow of phones lighting up. I wanted to scream, to explain that I was invited, that I was her sister. But no one listened. My parents wouldn't even meet my eyes. So I turned around and walked away, heels clicking against the marble floor, each step heavier than the last. The whispers trailed behind me like knives. I had come hoping to belong. Instead, I became the headline scandal of the day. I don't even remember how I got home that night. Just the numb grip on the steering wheel, my gown still clinging to me like a bad memory, and a deep, spreading ache that felt like a bruise on the inside. My tiny apartment didn't feel like a refuge, it felt foreign, as if I no longer knew who I was. 2 days later, in a haze of hurt and instinct, I logged into the family's shared bank account, the one I'd quietly poured $25,000 into over the years to help keep my parents' real estate business afloat. And then I saw it. A $30,000 withdrawal, made just 3 weeks before Sierra's wedding. No note, no warning, no permission. I checked again, hoping I'd misread something. But the number glared back, cold and undeniable. My chest tightened not because of the money, but because of what it meant. They hadn't just excluded me from the wedding. They had stolen the very savings I'd built from years of sacrifice to fund it. I called my dad first. He picked up after the third ring. "Madison?" "Finally calling back," he said, as if I were the problem. I cut straight to it. "What's with the $30,000 withdrawal?" Silence. Then a sigh. "Business has been tough. We had to make it work." I gripped the phone. "That's my money." He mumbled something about talking later, and hung up. Next, I called Mom. Her tone was sharper. "Madison, don't stir things up. You wouldn't understand." No one apologized. No one even acknowledged what they did. In that moment, I knew. This wasn't just rejection. This was betrayal. That afternoon, I sat in my car, parked outside my parents' house, their old dented SUV, still sitting in the driveway, like a relic of every bad decision they'd ever made. I took a deep breath. No more texts. No more passive silence. I came to confront. Mom opened the door. She looked surprised, but her face quickly shifted back to its default frost. "Madison, this isn't a good time." "It never is it?" I cut her off and walked inside. The living room was still cluttered, just like I remembered newspapers, overdue bills, unopened debt letters. Dad was slouched in his chair, eyeing me like I was just another problem. "What now?" I dropped the bank statement on the coffee table. $30,000 withdrawn. No call, no heads up, nothing. He looked away. "The business is drowning. We needed the money. Carla needed her wedding to be perfect." I let out a bitter laugh. "And that gives you the right to steal from me?" Mom jumped in, voice sharp. "You refused to help with the wedding. We had to make it happen." I froze. So the punishment for saying no was being banned from the wedding and having my money taken? No one answered. Their silence felt heavier than any excuse they could have given. I stepped back, hands shaking. I've been this family's wallet for too long. Over and over again. Dad finally muttered, "We'll pay you back." I looked him straight in the eyes. "Number. You're going to be held accountable." I walked out of that house with a weight in my chest, but for the first time in years, my head was high. I walked out of my parents' house with trembling hands but a crystal clear mind. I wasn't going to let them get away with it. All my life, I'd let things slide, hoping my kindness might eventually earn their respect. But this time was different. They hadn't just excluded me from an important day. They had stolen from me quietly, deliberately, and discarded me like I didn't matter. That night, I pulled out every document I could find. Bank transfers, email confirmations, receipts, even old text messages they never bothered to answer. Each number was a reminder of how many times I'd helped them without asking for anything in return until they made me the casualty of their selfishness. The next morning, I called Dana Whitmore, an attorney recommended by an old coworker. Her voice was sharp, calm, and refreshingly no-nonsense. After I laid out the situation, she said, "If you're a joint account holder and weren't informed about that withdrawal, this is serious. We'll start by requesting a full transaction history." For the first time in weeks, I felt like I had power. Like I had a right to be angry. A right to take back what was mine. That evening, my mother sent me a text. Just a few cold words. "Don't stir things up. We're family." I didn't reply. Families don't steal from each other and then say, "Let's not make a scene." I wasn't their silent daughter anymore. I was the woman demanding justice not just for the money, but for the respect I had never been given. I was sitting in Dana's office when my phone buzzed a number from Savannah I didn't recognize. I almost let it go to voicemail, but something told me to answer. "Madison Blake?" a woman's voice said, crisp and direct. "This is Rachel Morgan. I used to be your parents' accountant." I sat up straight. I saw the withdrawal report, and I know this wasn't just some oversight. I still have copies of the ledgers from when I worked with them, and I think you should see them. We agreed to meet at a small cafe. Rachel arrived with a thick folder and a no-nonsense look in her eyes. "I left the company when I realized they were moving money around in questionable ways," she said, setting a flash drive on the table. "This contains transaction records. Your money wasn't just used for the wedding. It also funded Sierra's influencer events, your mom's personal shopping, and one of your dad's failed investments." I felt the blood drain from my face. Every dollar I thought was helping the family had actually fed a system of deception. "Why are you helping me?" I asked. Rachel shrugged. "You're not the only one they've used." That night, I sat in my apartment, staring at the flash drive in my hand, feeling both furious and strangely relieved. Now, I had evidence. And more importantly, I wasn't alone. The truth was finally surfacing, and for once, it wasn't turning against me. News of Blake Realty Group's bankruptcy swept across Savannah within days of my formal claim. Names once respected in the local real estate scene were now splashed across headlines. Family business crumbles amid internal rift. I knew deep down they weren't sorry for hurting me. They were sorry they got caught. One morning, I woke up to find a handwritten letter slid under my apartment door. My mother's handwriting shaky, rushed. "Madison, everything is falling apart. We need you. Please don't make this public." I didn't need to read further. That wasn't an apology. It was a plea born of desperation. Later that day, Sierra texted, "Can we meet and talk?" Against my better judgment, I said yes. We met at a quiet cafe. No makeup, no followers, no camera-ready poise. Just a different Sierra, lost and tired. "I'm sorry," she said, her eyes glassy. "I didn't know they used your money." I looked her dead in the eyes. "You knew." I paused. "You just chose not to care." She looked down. "No comeback this time." "I was scared of losing everything," she whispered. "I traded real people for the illusion of a brand." She reached for my hand. I pulled away. "You didn't just lose a brand, Sierra. You lost your sister." I stood up and left without looking back. Their apologies came too late, and only after they had nothing left to protect. I had never set foot in a courtroom before. But that morning, as I stepped into the Savannah County Courthouse, I wasn't the girl left standing outside a hotel anymore. I was the plaintiff, and I carried the truth. My attorney, Dana Whitmore, walked beside me, arms full of thick folders, bank statements, receipts, and Rachel Morgan's evidence, the former accountant who had bravely agreed to testify. Inside the courtroom, I spotted my parents across the aisle. They looked smaller than I'd ever seen them. Sierra wasn't there, maybe because she knew there was no spinning the truth anymore. Then Rachel took the stand. Her voice was firm, unwavering. I was the accountant for Blake Realty Group. I witnessed several unauthorized withdrawals, including a $30,000 transfer to an event planning firm, coinciding with Sierra Blake's wedding. The room went quiet. The family account which Madison Blake contributed to was used without her consent to fund personal expenses, especially those tied to Sierra's influencer brand. I sat still, heart pounding not with fear, but with the ache of watching my own family exposed like frauds. The judge nodded after the testimony. I won the case. $20,000 would be returned to me from the family fund. Just a portion, but it meant something far greater. Validation. As I left the courtroom, I didn't feel joy. I felt free. As if the weight I'd carried for years, the longing to be seen, to be loved, had finally been lifted. I returned to my small Savannah apartment, set my bag down, and looked around. Everything looked the same. But I wasn't. I had won the case. I'd recovered a portion of the money. Yes, but more than that, I had reclaimed my voice, my dignity, and my right to exist without permission. A week after the hearing, I received another text from my mother. "We're still family. Can you stop now?" I read it and deleted it. No need to respond. Every time they said family, what they really meant was stay quiet and keep sacrificing. I also heard Sierra had lost several sponsorships. Her Instagram had gone quiet, and for the first time, people started asking, who is she without the spotlight? As for me, I started fresh. I applied to be a freelance marketing consultant for a new firm. I met up with Jordan, the one person who'd never left my side, and for the first time in ages, I laughed at something real, not just to keep the peace. I stopped checking Sierra's page. I stopped caring about my mother's messages or my father's silence. I no longer needed them to feel worthy. Stepping out from a family's shadow isn't easy, but I did it. I was once the girl always left on the edge, always begging for a seat. Now, I stand tall, build my own chair, and invite myself to sit. A few weeks after the hearing, I sat alone on a bench at Harborview Park, the lake catching the soft afternoon light, the breeze calming the noise that still stirred in my mind. Finally, I had space to breathe. I thought about everything the years I tried to be, the good daughter, always giving, never asking. I believed if I was kind enough, patient enough, they'd love me the way I deserved. But the truth was, they didn't need me to love. They needed me to give. I used to think family was something unchangeable, an unbreakable bond. But now I know family isn't blood. It's boundaries. It's respect. It's choice. And I choose me. I choose peace over silence. I choose freedom over self-sacrifice for someone else's image. I choose to rewrite the ending one where I'm not left out, not diminished, and not waiting for permission to exist. Jordan asked me last week, would you forgive them if you could go back? I said, I don't need forgiveness to move forward. I just need to let go. I rose from the bench, walking into the golden afternoon of Savannah, a city where I once felt small, now the place where I start again, feet grounded and heart unafraid of loss. I'm not the victim of this story. I'm the one who rewrote it. Madison's story isn't just about reclaiming stolen money. It's about reclaiming herself. After years of being overlooked and used by the people who should have protected her most, her family, she made a choice. She chose to stop being silent. She chose to fight back. And in doing so, she didn't just recover finances, she recovered her voice, her independence, and her belief in her own worth. The biggest message here isn't revenge, it's awakening. It's the realization that no one has the right to weaponize family ties, to manipulate or diminish you. Blood doesn't excuse betrayal. You have the right to set boundaries. You have the right to say no. And you have the right to walk away if staying means sacrificing your self-worth. If you've ever felt like the outsider in your own family, if you've been made to feel small, invisible, or used because of your kindness. Remember this: your value isn't measured by how others treat you. It's defined by how you choose to stand up for yourself. If this story moved you, leave a comment and share your thoughts. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss another powerful story. We want to hear your voice, your story. Tell us, what have you overcome to become the stronger version of yourself?